Thrive Guys, Episode 2, Disconnecting. You look like a reasonably, almost like a C or a D list pop star with that little hat on.
Oh yeah, it's because I'm incredibly bald under it, so...
Oh wow, you have gone... Yeah. Thing is, Dan, right? I always think that short hair like that suits you, so I don't think you should see it as a bad thing.
This isn't a fashion podcast though, is it?
No, it's not. That's very true.
It could be. In fact, let's do it. I'm going to start. Your jumper is, as always...
The same jumper I've been wearing for the last maybe 5 years.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I was looking for a photo of both of us and I looked back to when we went to Budapest in, I think it was March 2019, and you were wearing literally the same jumper.
Yeah. Oh no, it might not even be this jumper. I have another jumper that is literally identical to this. I basically wear blue t-shirts, blue jumpers and blue jeans, you know.
I've got multiple of the same jeans, but that's part of being productive, right?
Yeah, we laugh about it, but I watched this YouTube. I don't like saying YouTuber. I find it a bit cringe. But this YouTube person called Matt Diavella, and he took the same sort of philosophy as Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg, where he just wears the same clothes. He's just got multiples of the same clothes because it's one less decision that you have to make. There is no decision on wearing clothes. You just wear the same clothes because, you know, obviously they're clean, right?
Yeah.
That's not quite where I've got to. I just wear the same old clothes and I don't wash them because, you know, lockdown doesn't matter. You can't smell me, so what's the point?
I mean, the girlfriend's the only one that's going to moan about it, and if they're not complaining,
it's fine. You know, spray a little bit of Lynx Africa and you're fine. No worries.
Especially this close to Christmas.
What?
I've got it in abundance.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I was like, we are nowhere near Christmas. We have just had Christmas, but I realised what you said.
Well, it's lockdown, so it's been Christmas for the last 6 weeks for me.
Well, yeah, it's like March the 400th. We finished things kind of last week. We talked a lot about how we do stuff, right? So we talked a lot about how we get stuff done in our personal lives, in our work lives, and it was all very much how do we eke every last ounce of energy out of every day. And it got me thinking about, well, how do we recharge those batteries? And made me realise and made me think a little bit more around how I find it quite difficult to disconnect from work and disconnect from those feelings. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, I think where we left it last time is we were going to talk about how we disconnect. Do we find it hard? Do we find it easy, in fact? And, you know, maybe share some of the things that we do to help us, you know, uncouple ourselves from the matrix, I suppose. So
yeah, I mean, this is something I struggled with for a very long time, like taking work-based issues, so to speak, home. I'm not necessarily talking about like political issues or anything like that. I'm talking about, you know, you have an issue and you think, sometimes you'll be lying there at night and you think, I know how to fix that now, especially when it comes to like tech issues, or you'll be looking at something all day and then at some point at night you'll wake up and go, oh Jesus, or you'll wake up at night in a cold sweat and think, oh, this is going to be a problem tomorrow. And kind of, it's like work-based anxiety, I guess. I use the term lightly. I don't suffer from anxiety as like by today's standards. And yeah, having struggled with it for quite a long time, I had to put sort of measures in place in terms of turning devices off and being unreachable. Obviously, there's times when I know I should be reachable, so I'll just leave it on and just say, look, and I'll say that comfortably, I'm available if you need me, and I'm pretty open with my employer that, you know, if I'm not available, don't contact me. If I'm available, then feel free at any time. Like, you know, especially throughout lockdown, it's hard to be like, yeah, don't contact me, because everyone's in the same situation. You're at home, you're all doing nothing. That's it.
Yeah.
The government says stay at home, do nothing. So you're all just doing the same thing. So when somebody calls you, it's a bit more difficult to be like, yeah, not today.
Oh, sorry, I was out and about. Like,
yeah.
No, you weren't.
Sorry, I was at the Morrisons. Yeah, I was at Morrisons picking up a croissant. So the way I've kind of counteracted that is taking physical time away after work and lunch breaks. Like, and I'm a big advocate of actually taking your lunch break. And I say it to my girlfriend all the time, like she'll sit there and before you know it, it's been like 6 hours of her just sitting looking at stuff. And I said, well, are you going to take a break? She was like, yeah, I did. And it's like, when? Well, I stood up and I made a coffee. And it's like, well, that's in the grand scheme of things with an espresso pod, that's like a minute and a half tops. Putting some milk in, stirring it. Like you're not taking a break, you're not switching off. You're just going, all right, cool, off your pop, then back. So physical time away is like a huge change. Like even if you just move from your desk to the sofa for 15 minutes. So before we get into the nitty gritty of the apps, I mean, that's kind of like my mentality with that is like I'll work possibly like 30 minutes, 40 minutes on an issue. And if I'm no further, like obviously if you get into the swing of things and you feel like you're being productive with it, then stick at it if you want.
Yeah.
But normally if I'm just kind of slugging away at like a mundane task, or I'm slugging away looking at logs, or I'm looking at the same issue again and again, then taking time away and just walking around. I mean, in today's climate, walking around the house is kind of all you can do, but that's what I do. I'll get up, I'll walk upstairs, walk downstairs, walk to my office upstairs. I've got a second office with studio, sit there for a bit and just kind of stare out the window, peek on my neighbours, whatever you want to do.
Nice.
But yeah, I think that's the whole point, is physical time away is much more important than just like looking at a web page or something like that. You've got to give your eyes a rest as well. But yeah, what about you?
It's probably helpful to provide context and history, because this has been a journey for me, and it's actually become significantly better since the pandemic that must not be named.
Yes.
So, background around past Joe, future Joe. I'm in a job role that is based around effort being directly linked to reward. So the idea being is the more effort that I put in, the bigger my reward should be. And I'm an incredibly ambitious person. Mm-hmm. So I have always got this feeling of I need to do the next thing. I need to prove myself. And it's bananas. I've been doing what I've been doing for almost a decade, and I have proved myself time and time again that I am one of the top performers in what I do. But it's this whole imposter syndrome thing, which we should probably talk about another time, that pulls me back into this. I need to prove myself. I need to make sure that I am doing everything I can to prove to whoever that I can be the best. And it's probably proving it to myself just as much as it is proving it to other people, I suppose. So there's two things there. So there's the kind of the effort reward kind of cycle. There is my own kind of mindset in terms of my ambition. And then there's the amount of inputs and the amount of information I'm barraged with on a sort of daily, weekly basis that's kind of coming into my world. Emails are the bane of my life. And again, I'd like to talk about that in more detail with you later, because that is a whole topic in and of itself. So those inputs mean that I'm always catching up. And it was so bad in 2019 that I was really quite conscious about burning out.
One of my old bosses really said that to me. And I don't want to say it's like a big epiphany moment, but I can definitely relate to what you're saying. Like I've been very much a career person, very much trying to do exams where I can. I mean, I've settled down recently, but he actually sat me down one day and asked me, what's stressing you out? I could tell you're stressed. I can see you're under pressure, but we work on stats-based stuff, tickets, so he can see. And he's like, what's stressing you out? And we went through and we kind of broke down all the bits and all the tasks I was doing. He was like, you have got a lot of work, but when you split it up across the week, it's manageable. And he said, what I've noticed is that you are at the moment your own worst enemy, because you're putting this work on yourself. Like there's no harm in delegating that out. And like, to quote, maybe it's Thanos from Marvel, like when you're doing all this stuff, what does it cost? And he says, everything. Yeah. It's like, you've got to weigh up how much it costs you in your personal life and your own mental health, I guess. You really have to consider that impact on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I'm inherently a bit of an anxious person anyway. So I ponder things a lot, and I'm quite analytical, probably to a fault. And so all of those sort of things together mean that it's very difficult for me to then just disconnect, because it's a cacophony of problems, essentially. And I am my own worst enemy, because this isn't a culture that the company I work for have placed on me.
Exactly.
Actually, it's really the opposite.
That's what I mean.
My own personal culture, which is bananas, right? I don't know where it's come from. So past Joe, let's rewind 12 months ago. I was in notification city, let's call it notificationsville. Actually, no, that probably makes it sound too small. It's like notification station. Everything was switched on. So every time I got an email, it was a notification. Every time I got a WhatsApp, it was a notification. Every time I got a message, a notification. Every time I got a Skype message, I had it all on my phone and everywhere. And so I was being bombarded with pings and that's just like communication. Like that's not including all of the advertisements that you get and all the other crap that you get with notifications, right? I was constantly being distracted by those, and I would start 3 different things because I would start something, an email would come in, I would start writing a response, and then I'd go back to the first thing I started, and then something else would happen and I'd start that. And before I knew it, I was working on 3 things at once and doing them all badly.
Yeah, open loops.
Yeah, exactly. Open loops, exactly. All constant open loops. And because I was traveling so much, because the work that I did, I would probably spend 4 or 5 hours in the car every day, just traveling to different customers and stuff.
And what do you do when you drive, right? You think. You don't just listen to music and start rocking out to whatever, Deep Purple. I don't know what you listen to at your age, but you don't sit there just rocking out on the drive.
Let's pause there. Deep f***ing Purple. I don't even know what that is. Like,
okay, cool. Keep telling yourself that.
How old do you think I am? I'm not 130. I'm 31. Deep f***ing Purple. I'm sorry, mate, but who's been to see Toto more times than they've had hot dinners? It ain't me.
Yeah, my girlfriend. And now you're personally attacking her.
Don't even go there, my friend.
Anyway, but you're listening to Toto on your drive, but you're not totally listening. You're thinking about what your tasks are and what you're going to do. Like, especially if you're going to site, you're thinking about your intent. You're going, what am I going to say when I get there? What if they ask me this? I need to prep this, and I need to make sure I've got an answer to everything. Because if you're of that mindset, you don't want to go into a site and look like an idiot. Really, you can be going to a site to have a simple conversation. I know, as I said last time, in sales, it's just show me the money. But what if you say, show the money to me? And they get taken aback, and that's it. Deal snatched from you.
And all the while, the inbox is piling up. The messages are piling up, because I can't deal with anything. I genuinely had a kind of a point in time where I thought that my brain was going to pop. It was nuts. And I was working in the evening quite a lot as a result of that, because I would travel all day. I would do the 3 things that I'd scheduled to do, and then I'd come back and I'd deal with the mountain of other stuff that came in that day. So
is your mindset on that as well? Is your mindset on that, well, if I do it now, it eases my day tomorrow? Or is it just you have that, that impulse to just do it, I guess?
Well, I used to have a rule, weirdly, that I set myself, where I said I'd always respond to emails within 48 hours. And I just scrapped that rule because, email is asynchronous communication. Just because someone sends you an email doesn't mean that they deserve a response, regardless of what the email is about. It can't work like that, because, as I said in the last episode, if you live in your inbox and just respond to people, you will never get anything meaningful done. And so one of the things that the pandemic has actually really helped me with is marking the territory between work and me. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm not doing any traveling at the moment. So one of the benefits of that is I can generally keep a better handle on the inputs. I completely removed all notifications from my world. I no longer get any notifications from anything. No little 1s or 2s or 3s, the little badges, they're gone. Not interested in them, because they are a massive source of anxiety for me. I even in my office, this office is the same place that I chill out and play games and stuff like that. And I changed the color of the lights from blue, which is work, to like soft orange, which is play. And that I'm trying to like make my brain go from being work Joe to being not work Joe, just by kind of changing the lights.
So that's the point about like physical triggers as well, because it sounds like a lot of the issues you face kind of are similar to mine, I guess, which is there is a word for it. I inadvertently looked it up because I was kind of I was concerned about my own well-being based on some things that had happened this week, because I kind of just shut myself down. I wanted to do different things. I had a lot of stuff building up work-wise and personal-wise, and I just thought, you know what, I don't have time to play games. I don't have time to socialise. So that's it. Not necessarily barriers up, but what it's called really is like, it's ruminating, which is when you have something that will trigger you. And then what happens is it just triggers that emotion, whatever it is. It can be excitement, it could be fear, it could be anxiety, it could be just stress. And that triggers whatever in your brain, anxiety. And then you just loop round because you think about past experiences, future experiences. You don't really live in the now. Like I keep trying to live in the now and be like, well, that's my problem now. And future Dan will live through it. But it's like when you mentioned the other week, like about getting into an argument with a band, for example. Like that will trigger you, and realistically you're an adult now and you just kind of go, whatever, I'm not gonna, I doubt that band or whoever it was is sitting at home going, oh, that Joe, oh, I wish I'd have had a fight with him.
That'd be mental if they did.
Exactly.
Because it was like 2004 and it was like one night in their existence. I can't even remember the band's name now.
But that's my point though. It's one night in your existence as well, right? But you'll still ruminate on it because that's who you are as a person. Like the fact that you brought it up is like ruminating on that, and then you might think nothing of it, but you'll sit there and maybe at night you'll be going, oh, I do remember that. I'm reliving it. And then you go to sleep, you have a poor night's sleep subconsciously. Yeah. So, I mean, from a day-to-day perspective, in terms of stepping away from tasks and focusing on like myself, there's an app called Forest, which I think I did explain to you before. But what you do is you set like a timer and apply some intent to what you want to do. So you'll say, like I do a report every Monday for one of our clients, and I've tried to automate it as much as possible. So now I've got it down to like quite a small time frame. But I set aside like half an hour on a Monday morning to be like, I just want to make sure that's done. So if anyone contacts me, I'm doing that report. If I finish it earlier, I'll cancel the timer. But the way it works is you plant a tree for each task you want to do. So it's like a visual representation. So you can be like, oh, today I've planted 15 trees, which means you've done 15 tasks. It's not necessarily so, quote, mechanical. It just kind of gives you a bit of like a dopamine boost or whatever the chemical is. Yeah. So I tend to like sort of wake up and go, what do I want to do? I want to go through my inbox, for example, and I'll set aside 10 minutes and just plop that in there and it will go off and there's my tree, done and dusted.
And then do you have a break at that point?
Sometimes. It depends on the time frame. Like if it's like a half-hour piece of work, then I'll step away for 5 minutes because like having a stand-up desk, I do it less because I'm kind of active and I'm moving around, or I'll just walk around, look around the room, like that meme of the guy that's got his arms behind his back, just looking around. That's kind of me in my house at the moment.
The Pablo Escobar meme.
That's the one, where he just sat in his swimming pool. That's all I can do at the moment, but it's important to just be like, I'm not going to respond to people for a minute. Like, if people can't wait 30 seconds for you to respond to a message, or even 5 minutes, then you're clearly too important to exist. You should be president. Like, not Trump, but, a real president.
Whoa. Here we go.
Yeah,
we got into politics already. Woo!
So, I mean, Forest is like a big outlet for splitting my work and personal stuff. I use it for, like, if I'm doing production stuff or I'm doing audio work, because sometimes you'll spend, like, you've done audio work, right? And sometimes you can spend 5 or 6 hours listening to the same snare drum or the same kick drum just because you're like, it's not right. I want it to sound more like this.
Trying to get that resonant out.
Yeah, and before you know it, your ears are tired and you've really accomplished nothing. So you spent 6 hours sat in your basement listening to the same kick drum, and then the song's worse from when you started. So it's important to like set half an hour windows and be like, I'm going to work on this for half an hour and step away. And like whether it's to get a drink or whether it's to walk around for a bit, whatever you do. Like normally I'd set it to like, I'd set half an hour working on music and then just go and do something completely separate to it. Like go and stroke the dog for 5 minutes, then come back to it, because you just get lost in that cycle, that internal cycle of, well, like, if I work on it, I'm going to fix it. Case in point, like I know someone that was doing some coding. And before the pandemic, we were doing some coding around here on a project we were working on. And 3 hours, he looked at the same thing, couldn't get it to work. For literally 3 hours, doing back and forth, going, I wonder if this works, wonder if that works. Oh, I can't get it to work. He went to the toilet and came back and was like, yeah, I got it. That was it. And just wrote it there and then done. And it sounds a bit dramatic, but that's literally what happened. And I just kind of thought, if you'd have just stepped away sooner, you wouldn't have spent 3 hours on this. It could have been done in, I mean, maybe circumstantially it wouldn't be, but that's kind of where... the kind of what inspires me to take breaks.
I suppose it's the equivalent of sleeping on it. Do you know what I mean? So giving your brain time to process the inputs that you're receiving and then come up with your brain is amazing, but it needs time. You know, it needs time to process things. It needs time to kind of, it's like a muscle. You know, if you just constantly work the muscle, you're going to get tired.
And it's not going to get stronger. As I found, you know me, benching 100 kgs probably every half hour or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Hard as nails.
Let's make sure that if we ever, you know, when we release this, we don't release any photos of you, just so that you can maintain that facade.
I'll be animated for the rest of my life.
Yeah. Big brawny Dan with his flowing long locks of hair. And
it's worth also mentioning, right, that I know we kind of joke about it, and, you know, obviously I don't bench 100 kg, it's probably more like 120, but exercise is like a key point of keeping a healthy mindset. And when you get stuck in that loop of feeling stressed and work's getting you down, like even just taking a long walk or a jog, like really clears out your head and makes you feel a bit better about the day. And we kind of say this as well, like to each other, is like even if you go out for a run, you feel like you've achieved something before the work day starts. Because there is, like, work is a huge part of your life, but there is more important things than work. You don't want to be 30 years old looking 50 because you've worked hard for the first 20 years of your life. Like, just you have to take that time to relax and take time to exercise, because before you know it, you are 50 years old and you're wasting away because you've done no exercise, because you've been sat at your desk for the last decade. I try and do a pre-work bit of exercise every day, whether it's a walk, run, and I use that to kind of plan my day as well. So when I'm on my walk, I don't necessarily walk with a notepad or whatever, but I'll just be kind of mulling things over. Like, what have I got to do today? Because it's quite a simple thing to, like, talking to yourself is a big outlet for being productive as well. When you're walking, saying, you know, what am I going to, obviously not out loud really. I don't want to look like a crazy whilst I'm on my jog or whatever, but, you know, having that internal monologue where
I can just imagine you like walking around and all these dog walkers are like, oh God, it's the guy who talks to himself again. And you're just like, well, I'm going to do this today, I'm going to do that today. And, existential dread. Morning, yep.
But what do you do on your morning walks or your morning runs if you go for one?
So I have a process that I do when, well, this is letting the listener and you into a part of my life that I thought I would never let anybody into.
When the going gets tough.
When I start my day, I do my boot up process, either because I don't want to do it when I get to my desk, because I want to just get to my desk and get into the work, right? And so I have a daily sort of ritual, I guess, where I kind of say, I look at my tasks and I, well,
at 7:01,
let me start again. The first thing I do is I write something down that I'm grateful for, and that just flicks my mindset into a positive frame of mind from, oh God, I've got to do the work, I've got to have a day at work, and oh no, you know. I just go, right, I'm grateful for this. And it could be something as simple as I'm grateful for my morning coffee, and I'm grateful for waking up early before the world wakes up and having the quiet. Whatever it is, right? I write something down that I'm grateful for. And then I make a record of my mood. I like tracking my mood, and I just rate it out of 10. It's a really just blunt instrument.
So what do you class as like a 1 out of 10? I'm assuming 1's the worst and 10's like a great mood. Where does what's your spectrum? Do you ever wake up as a 1 when you're thinking grateful? You're feeling grateful. Do you ever just go, do you know what? Well, screw it. It's a 1 because I've got a headache.
I always rate my mood after I've done the gratitude piece, not before, because it does help me. It flips my mindset. And so, I'm usually, the worst I am is a 5, and it's usually because I'm tired. I haven't slept well for whatever reason or whatever it might be. So I've never been a 1. I usually hover around 7 or 8. I'm a pretty happy guy, It takes a lot to flap me. At that point, I then plan out my day. I say, right, these are the 3 things that I'm going to do today that will make today a success, because it's important to kind of have those little micro wins rather than looking at the macro all the time, because if you have all the little micros, they'll build up to the macro, right? After I've done that, I shower, I do all the bits and pieces, and then I go out for a walk. And that walk is for not thinking about work. It's for doing my commute. So my commute before was listening to a podcast or an audiobook or something like that. And one of my yearly themes is reading more. And so since the start of this year, it's been exclusively audiobooks. And so that is a time for me to, and I've actually been listening to audiobooks about philosophy.
Good.
I've not been doing Harry Potter. I've been doing...
the Philosopher's Stone, yeah.
yeah, not Harry Potter. But the one I just finished was a book called The Alchemist. I can't remember who it's by, but it's quite a famous book. It's like a fable. It's brilliant. It's got such
pull that
hidden
up.
meaning.
I need to find out who that is.
Yeah. Jamie, pull that up. Yeah. There is no one. We don't have a Jamie here, do we? It's a great book, and it's something that I would recommend. I'll put a link to it. I'll send you the link, basically. So that is for me to go, right, I'm going to have my last sort of bit of wind up for the day. I'm going to listen to something that's going to empower me, is going to make me feel good, it's going to make me feel like I can tackle the day. And then I get to my desk, I sit down, and I just get on with it. You know, and that for me is a really important space, and it really helps me disconnect and get ready and clear my head and just get focused. And the exercise helps as well. You know, that is quite an important thing. I do the same thing at the end of the day. So I review the day. I think we talked about this last time, where I just go, right, you know, did I achieve the things I wanted to achieve today? Do a debrief, actually record my mood at that point, and just have a look at, you know, I do some habit tracking. So I just look at the end of the day, okay, have I done all my habits? Have I read for half an hour? Have I, you know, done some cardio, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And at that point, depending on the day, I will then get on the exercise bike. That for me is a new thing. It's not a thing I've done for very long. And that is basically where I get all of my energy, my nervous energy, my stress energy, all of that cortisol that's built up throughout the day, and I throw it at the bike.
Turn it into lactic acid and complain about it.
I just absolutely I destroy myself to the point where... Turn it into
physical pain, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I turn that anguish, that existential anguish, and I just turn it to my knees and my calves and my thighs, and that's where it goes. And actually that for me, after I've done that, I get off, and I can't, during that 20 minutes, I don't have the mental capacity to think about anything other than pedal, pedal, pedal. Oh my God, I'm going to die. Am I going to throw up? That sort of stuff. So I'm not thinking about work.
That's exactly how I feel about running. You just go on, you just crack on. And it's like, if somebody's calling me at that point, you can always come back and say, yeah, I was out for a run. Obviously, if you're running for 5 hours out of the day, then you're going to have a problem with your employer, right? But if you're going out for a run and somebody needs you, like, I'm unavailable. I'm not going to sit there on my phone like, yeah, I'm just jogging. Yeah, I can take this.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting that you mentioned like habit tracking, because that's something I think we should pick up on in a further episode in terms of what you track habit-wise, because I also track habits. But yeah, it's not something for this podcast really.
So we've talked about kind of your morning routine. We've talked about my morning sort of routine. We've talked a little bit about how we sort of disconnect on a micro level. I'm quite keen to understand from your perspective how you, at the end of the day, because this is the bit I really struggle with, you know, at the end of the day, what's your kind of evening routine in terms of, this is how I say work is done, this is now Dan time. Not downtime, but Dan time.
Well, for me, it's kind of, there's a clear cut, because I have a work phone and I have a work laptop, which is, you know, I'm quite fortunate. Some people don't have that separation. Some people use their work phone for WhatsApp or for calling, whatever they use. Like, I have a clear cut, I have work hardware, so I can just power that down. So, but I also tend to not leave, I used this term earlier, but open loops at work.
Yeah.
I would rather just, even if it's just to send an email to say, I will be looking at this tomorrow, or I'll be looking at this at this date, whatever it is, I don't want to leave it open. Like if somebody emails me at 3:00 and I'm finishing at 5, I'll have that in the back of my mind in terms of that's probably a task I should hope to achieve. I know you're saying like you want to respond to people within 48 hours, and an email's just an email. But for me, working in a support-based role, it's kind of to make people feel a bit warm and fuzzy from a client perspective. You want to just be like, yeah, I am looking at this. I've received it and I am looking at it, but I'll get back to you tomorrow. So I close all those loops, and then literally I'll shut down my machine. And because my desk is where it is, you've seen my house is in the corner, I just walk away from it. And from a mindset perspective, like even my work phone will go off. If I've got loads on, I will tend to leave my work phone on. I'm a bit guilty of that, but I'll just step away and move to something else. And that's no technology. I won't sit on my personal phone, won't sit on another laptop. I won't boot anything else up. I'll just stop.
Right.
And normally, because of the dog, I tend to try and take him out after shift. If weather permitting, we tend to sort of take a walk after work.
Yeah.
So the girlfriend Kerry, obviously, Kerry takes him out in the morning, and I'll take him out after work or on lunch, depending on the weather. So for me, it's like a clear cut. It's like my laptop's off and I'm taking the dog out. If somebody needs me, I'm out with the dog. Like that's my top priority at the moment. So that's kind of where I'm at. Like, what about you? Do you switch? I don't know if you're in the same situation where you have work hardware, like a work laptop and a personal laptop. Yeah, fine. So this is where, I'm quite fortunate that I have that physical disassociation where, like, we have, my laptop, which is next to me, but I'll just literally hold the power button down. I'm shutting down, finished. And that's like very much a mental thing as well, just shutting down. Because I know that as soon as I power it on tomorrow, I'm back where I was. Whereas if you don't have that, you want to start browsing some personal things, you want to go and buy something online, you've got the same hardware in front of you. So it must be much more difficult.
Well, this is the insanity of the world of Joe. We're through the keyhole now, Dan. I have a work laptop. I don't use it. I use my personal laptop for work because I'm a psychopath.
Yeah, correct.
Well, actually, it's because I prefer using a Mac to using a Windows machine.
Prefer using a
and
laptop that
we
works.
have a BYOD policy at work, which I adhere to. So it's all secure and all of that good stuff. But there are some things that I do to separate work and personal. I'm certainly not perfect, but just doing these couple of things actually really helps. So the first thing, I don't use my laptop for a lot outside of working. So when I'm downstairs, I don't take my laptop downstairs. My office is up in the corner of the house and on the second floor. And so when I walk downstairs, it's kind of, I can shut it away, it's gone. And if I have the lights off or in a different sort of flavour, or a different colour rather, even if I'm in here, it's not work time, it's relaxed time, it's Joe time. And so that's quite helpful just from a micro sort of mindset change. Mm-hmm. When I'm downstairs, I'll use my iPad for, buying things and browsing the internet.
iPad is leisure. Just look at it. It is for leisure.
Yeah.
I just want to sort of interject there, sorry. Just on the sort of case of the iPad, I think we had this conversation when I bought my iPad because I strictly use my iPad for personal stuff. Like there's no work apps on it. There's no social media. There's absolutely nothing. So I have it for productivity tools and for managing anything that I do outside of work or outside. I don't want to say outside of my personal life, but it's production stuff. And that's all I use it for. So if I'm traveling, I can record, and if I have ideas, I can just sort of smash my interface straight into the iPad and crack on. But I don't know if yours is the same, like a leisurely device or like a...
It is now. It didn't used to be. It used to be my traveling workstation. So I used to use it when I was traveling out and about because it was a more compact, nicer experience to get work done on it versus the big clunky Windows laptop. And you know me, I'm not a huge fan of Windows anyway. And it looks really cool and, all that good stuff. So, but now, obviously, I'm at my desk a lot more, and that's kind of the situation that we're in now. And that's fine. So what that essentially means is my laptop is the workstation and the iPad is the on the sofa, browsing Amazon, buying things I don't need to stave off the existential dread of life.
Correct.
There's a bit of truth in every joke, isn't there?
No, you are right, though. You are right. There's that nice little hit of someone knocking at your door and saying, well, my dog trying to kill him, and then me opening the door and saying, thanks for the package, and Kerry saying, what? Another package? What's that? And I say, it's just some pencils. She's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, pencils. I wanted to draw something. I wanted to do some grey work. She's like, you never drawn in your life? And it's like, who cares?
Now's
I want
the time
to now.
To start.
Yeah, exactly.
I think Kaylee thinks that I am slowly trying to drown her in cardboard boxes. I generally believe that
Just build
she
a
thinks
fortress.
that I am trying to suffocate the house in cardboard boxes.
Tell her you're building an extension and it's just made out of cardboard predominantly.
I can't afford to get planning permission, so we're going to just build it out of cardboard and that be what we do.
It's almost
Brilliant.
like you're attacking my house direct. My nice little cardboard house down the road.
Oh dear, that's so funny. Yeah, so that's quite a good disconnect for me. I don't take my laptop downstairs very much, so that works. If I'm on my laptop and I'm doing unintentional things, on YouTube or whatever, when I'm taking a break, I will use Safari rather than Google Chrome, which is what I use for all my work web stuff. So when I'm logging into my CRM at work, I'll use Google Chrome. When I'm logging into any of the work stuff, I'll use Google Chrome. But when I'm doing personal stuff, logging into my own personal email or, going on YouTube or buying things on Amazon, etc., I will use Safari. And so actually that is a nice disconnect because they look very different, right? And they even kind of present the web page in a slightly different way as well. So it does help me differentiate the two. And the final thing is email. So I don't do lots of email kind of outside of work, but there is some email that that I have to deal with. And that is in a different app to my work email. So I use Outlook, obviously, for work email because it is a really good app for email. We'll come back to that later in the future. But the Apple Mail app is for all of my personal email. And the two are very, very separate. And so if I want to check something in outside of work, I don't then get dragged into that inbox, if you see what I mean. So
especially if you have no notifications as well, so you're not seeing Outlook pile up. You just go, today is a work day, or even if you wake up on the weekend and go, I need to do a work-based task, you just click on Outlook and it's separate. It's the whole kind of separation of applications versus separation of hardware as well. I'm a big advocate of separating hardware. Like, I've got my Mac for doing my production stuff. I have nothing else on it. But obviously I do some browsing, but I won't bring this downstairs normally. Like, I use it for recording the audio for this, but I don't sit downstairs on that and go, I better browse. And if I'm going to buy something, it'll be like, well, I'll get my iPad and buy it. Just because for me, it's that total disconnect. Like, this has its purpose. My work laptop has its purpose. Like, I don't install personal apps on my work laptop. It's just general common sense. You don't sit there and think, I could do with, say, for example, we're having a brief discussion about animation before this. I wouldn't sit there and go, do you know what? In my work time, I could download an animation software and have a look. It's like, I'll get my iPad or my Mac or whatever it is and start on that. Like, I also have just like a piss about laptop, which is where I install stuff I'm not sure of, or, stuff that could be potentially harmful to my machine. So I'm just like, bish, bash, bosh, or in a VM, whatever.
Nice. It's been good to talk to you about disconnecting. I think you've given me some ideas in terms of how I could probably do things better. If you were to be really honest with yourself, and in turn honest with us and honest with the listeners, what do you think you could do better to disconnect from those stresses of work and,
Learning probably to say no. I mean, some people that know me may disagree. Like my girlfriend, when she says, can you do the dishes? And I say, no. I'm good at that. But from a work perspective, I'm very much like, well, yeah, all right, yep. Even from a production perspective, someone says, can I send you something? Can you have a listen? Yep. Do you reckon you could add some drums to it? Yep. Do you reckon you could do this? Whatever task. I just go, yeah, because that's kind of part of who I am. I'm not chasing dreams. I'm not chasing the money. I like experiences, right? And you never know what you miss out on. If you message me and say, Dan, I've got a cool idea. Like, for example, this podcast. You just messaged me one day, do you fancy doing a podcast? No idea what it's about. I was just, yep, whatever.
Yeah, I would say that I think I know you well enough now to say that you are and this is not meant as a criticism, but you are a yes person. You do agree to pretty much anything anybody asks of you. And I imagine that probably causes, because honestly, I'm quite similar, probably causes a lot of friction in yourself, because you sign yourself up to a lot and then it's like, how do I fit this all in?
But there's also the element of being able to manage that. If I really can't manage it, I'll just say, like, and I'm happy to say yes, but it's like, if I don't have the time, I'll say, I'll do the podcast, but I can only do X amount of time per week, or I can't do 6 hours worth of editing after, or I can't do, a week's worth of animating a video or putting audio to it every week kind of thing. It's like, maintaining expectations, but that's a big part of what I do as a role is, managing the expectation of the client as well.
Yeah.
Like if somebody comes in and says, we need 100 servers built tomorrow, I don't go, oh yeah, sure. okay, I'm happy to help, but this is the time frame. Be realistic, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good to hear.
But that's kind of the biggest piece of advice I'd give to myself, is to learn when to say no more efficiently, I guess.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, I just have that worry that you miss out on certain experiences. You never know what's behind the door until you open it, kind of thing.
You have big FOMO.
Yeah. As long as you're not putting anyone else in danger or, you know, hurting people along the way, what's the harm in saying yes? If it's yourself, like you always bounce back, I guess. You'll recover. What would be your advice to yourself? Not even to past Joe, but to present Joe.
I think the best advice I could give to myself now is don't be afraid of failure. Failing will happen. It's a part of life. It's not seen by anybody as a bad thing necessarily. If you try something and it doesn't work, that's okay. Yeah, if you make a decision and it's a wrong decision, that's okay. All you need to do is do something about that, right? A bad decision can be fixed with just another decision. It's not the end of the world.
That's exactly what my nan used to say. She would say, just make it, like, doesn't matter what, it really doesn't matter what decision you make, because you can always just make another. That's it.
Yeah.
That's literally all it boils down to, right?
And I think that's probably the advice I give most, along with control the controllable. And don't worry about the things that are outside of your control. And a lot of the books that I'm reading at the moment about Stoicism, they're preaching that kind of narrative. Mm-hmm. And I'm reading those books because I have a innate sense that I could be better at that. Even though I always tell people, don't worry about the stuff that's outside of your control. You can't control it. I'm brilliant at giving advice. You know, I'll stick my beak in anywhere it can fit. But
and it's a bloody big beak.
It's a big beak, you know. But that's probably the piece of advice that I could follow more.
Well, let me just finish this off then. This is not related to your point, but it's a good segue into ending the podcast, right? Everything good has to come to an end.
Take it home, Dan. Take it home. Come on, I'm ready for it.
It's worth noting that we do live in like this very fake world, right? On social media, with celebrities, with people, business owners, that everybody wants to preach to everyone how easy it is and how if you work hard you're going to achieve, which is kind of what I guess you suffer from, where you're like, if I work hard I get rewards, and you know, the harder I work the more I can do. But it's easy to give people that advice when there's no risk associated to it. It's like me saying to you, Joe, you're a fantastic salesman. Have you ever considered just quitting your job, selling your house and starting your own business? Which is all well and good, because fundamentally it's good advice. You could go on to make trillions doing your own sales outside of your business, or you could end up in a gutter with Kaylee feeding you yogurt or whatever. I don't know what, you know, I don't know how your life turns out in this analogy, but
of all the things to buy when I'm in the gutter, yogurt.
I'm just thinking because I've got yogurt in the fridge.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yogurt, banana and a bit of granola. Ooh. Preaching that healthy lifestyle. But we live in that society where everyone's pushing to be like the top and to always show everyone that they're doing well. And I think that's kind of where fundamentally that fear of failure comes in, because nobody goes on Facebook or goes on whatever social media platform they use and says, oh, I failed an exam today, or yeah, failed my driving test. Or when they pass their driving test, they don't put up, oh, this is my 7th time doing my driving test. They just go, look at me, everyone, I'm great. So then you inherently feel bad about the failures that you have, because you see everyone around them, like they post up and they say, so we done a thing. And it's like, what? Oh, you've bought a house. Well, you know, congrats. And you want to be happy for them, but you don't see behind the scenes where family members have given them money, or how they've suffered for 5 years trying to pay these bills and argued about it and stuff like that. So yeah, there's all the dark side of the internet that's kind of hidden away and from people's personal lives. Like, you know, we're quite fortunate that we're quite open and honest with each other in, you know, our friendship and stuff, but some people aren't that fortunate. So that fear of failure kind of piles up and makes people feel bad. And I guess my advice to people is to just kind of acknowledge that everybody has failures.
I don't think failing's a bad thing. It feels bad. It doesn't feel good, but you know, you push past it and you learn something from it. I think I've probably learned more from stuff that I've got wrong than stuff that I've got right. But you know, I still have that inherent fear of messing up. It probably stems from some childhood thing, and you know,
losing at Scrabble.
This isn't a therapy session, so let's not pick at that. So
Let's grab that thread and run with it.
Yeah, right. I agree with you though. You know, and I think social media is probably the one evil thing that's come out of the internet. Obviously, it's done some good, but I think actually it's
Largely
probably
good.
hurt us more than it's helped us. I try and stay off it. That's one thing that I do that's really helped is I stay out of that stuff, because my being an inherently anxious person and then looking at what everyone else is doing and me feeling inadequate as a result of that, I don't sign up to that. I'm not interested. There's no value in that. So,
But to talk about thriving, that is arguably counterproductive. You're not going to thrive if you surround yourself by people that are, because they're not necessarily doing better, but people that are spending their time posting, telling you that they're doing better, kind of thing.
Agreed. Yeah. Cool. Well, it's been good to talk today. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I mean, it's been interesting.
I think the thing to finish this off as well with is to just say, like, and this is what I say to most people that are suffering with kind of stress, is that you can only do what you can do. So like, regardless of all the productivity side, there's only one of you and you can only do as much as you can do. So whether you've got 1 or 100 tasks, there's only one of you can only do as much as you can do.
Thanks everybody for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing to our show. And if you really, really liked it, please consider giving us a 5-star rating. Yeah, that really helps us out. It helps us grow our audience. So, only if you loved it, but if you did, then that'd be really good. If you'd like to hear more from Dan or myself, please follow us on Twitter at ThriveGuysPod. Otherwise, we'll see you next week. Say goodbye, Dan.
Goodbye.